Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our webinar on accessibility. This is the first of the series that we are going to run for you. We'll hope to see you in 2 weeks for a session that will be focused around how accessibility affects the non-European Union-based companies, and then in 4 weeks about the design and how to make a design accessible. Today's sessions will be a general one on accessibility and how to ensure that your website is accessible, how to test that. With me is Agnes, who is our head of delivery, and Agnes is our accessibility expert. And in the expert session, she'll dive deeper into what are the common issues in accessibility and how to make that, how to make sure that your website, or how to audit your website. So feel free to say hi in the chat or say why you've come, what brought you to our webinar. I hope if there are any designers, I welcome you also to join our sessions 4 weeks. If there are any owners of companies from UK, US, Australia, or any other non-European countries, the second session would be especially interesting to you. But of course, on these sessions, we'll cover the basics of the European Accessibility Act. Okay, so let me just run you through an agenda. I'll introduce you to the EAA with just the basic information on what does it mean to be accessible compliant and the key objectives and the importance of that. Then we'll have that technical deep dive with Agnes. And at the end, we'll have some time for a Q&A session, an open forum to discuss your cases. Okay. So why does the EAA matters? A little bit of a background. So it all started in 2019 when the directive of European Union, the EAA directive that aims to create an internal market for all the users, all the clients, all the people within the European Union, so that it is accessible and inclusive to all. So the aim of that directive is to harmonize accessibility requirements across European Union and also remove the barriers that are present throughout the different national regulations. The Accessibility Act applies both to physical and digital products, or all the products and services that have high impact on the daily lives of people with disabilities. So physical products could be, for example, ebook readers or ATM machines or ticket machines, and digital products, and this is what we are going to be focusing on, was anything around websites, mobile apps, e-commerce, fintech, SaaS products, streaming, but also digital product services. So important question is, who must comply with the European Accessibility Act? And you need to operate or serve users in the European Union. The digital services needs to be, are those that were described as having high impact on people with disabilities. And then unless you are a micro enterprise, a micro company with less than 10 employees and less than 2 million turnover, then that also concerns you and your company. What it is important is that it is market-based. So even companies with headquarters outside of the European Union, but that are serving their products and serving their services to European Union customers must comply. So if you are a manufacturer of ticketing machines from the UK, or a startup from United States that has this revolutionary fintech app that wants to cater to European customers, then that also you're also obliged to comply with those standards. It affects mostly those sectors, so anything like software as a service or e-commerce, ICT and consumer techs, publishing, media, streaming, and also education, public sector. So it's quite a vast number of sectors are are within those regulations of EAA. Now, it started in 2019 was the date of the directive. Then until 2022, the countries had a time to transpone that directive into national law, and it is being now enforced and starts to be in law on the 28th of June this year, meaning we have just over 2 weeks to apply it, and to comply with those standards set by European Accessibility Act. Now, the important question is, what does it mean that a product is accessible? So European Accessibility Act is built on top of two foundations. One is WCAG, Website Content Accessibility Guidelines, and more European standard for ICT product, EN 301549. Well, the general guidelines in WCAG is that the digital product needs to be perceivable, meaning that anyone needs to be able to see it, to digest it, to work with that. And the tools that allow for that would be any like screen readers, text alternatives such as alt text for images, or transcripts for audio, high contrast modes, so anything that will allow the users to consume the content of your website. The second thing is that it needs to be operable by anyone. So anyone needs to be able to interact with that product. And for example, here it's important that your digital product supports keyboard navigation or voice control support. Understandable means that the users need to know what is happening basically on your digital product and be able to navigate on that seamlessly and effortlessly. So it functions in a predictable way, and it's also easy to understand. So, for example, the guidelines said that it should use a simple language without an overuse of jargon, or that it has some consistent navigational patterns, which is important that to grasp that this touches not only on the code and the technical aspect of a website, of a digital product, but also on a design layer, on a content layer. So accessibility is really holistic. It's not just code, but overall user experience that it delivers. Then robust means that it needs to support multiple of assistive technologies, so such as those screen readers, magnifiers, contrast modes, keyboard navigation, or speech recognition. And it needs to the code that is created needs to be compliant with the standards, mostly with ARIA standard, so that the system understands which elements are what on your website and can support users with disabilities in understanding that. So that's the standard WCAG. European standard accessibility standard is basically touches on the similar things from a little bit of a different perspective, but it's also that the visual settings needs to be customizable, that there is multiple options to input or output information, that the documentation is accessible, and that those all assistive technologies are supported. So this is the foundation that builds a product being accessible. And in short, we have a description of what, from a technical standpoint, that means. So all those alt text, keyboard navigation, accessible forms, descriptive labels on different elements of the website and different components, contrasts, readable typography. Just as I mentioned before, it touches on those intersection in between the tech, the design, the content. Now, well, the important thing and an important question that everyone is concerned about is, okay, what happens if we are not accessible? We still have 2 weeks to be, then what happens if you are not? Well, there are fines that are, they vary from EU state to state, but they are rather hefty. You might be enforced to cease your to cease your operations for a certain period of time. And then the valuations might be publicly exposed, which might actually be even more harmful than the fine when it hurts your reputation and your brand and your recognition. Then that's on the bad side of things. But on the good side of things, why accessibility is important? It's super important because it allows you to tap into this huge market of over 100 million of Europeans with disabilities. According to European Council, almost a one-fourth of European Union adult population has some form of disabilities. And so that's a huge market, huge potential for well, catering to being able to present your products, your services to this audience, and so that they can interact with it. Then we've just mentioned that it's not only about the code, but it's also about the overall user experience. And I'm sure you all know that the good user experience translates into a good conversion, and good conversion translates into higher revenues. So investing in accessibility also improves the overall UX user experience for everyone, and that thus translating into more higher revenue and more conversion and better growth for your digital product. Now, it's also important for building this loyalty with your users and building a brand trust for your company. Well, how do we approach at Xfive accessibility? So accessibility has been central to our way of thinking about digital products since 2019. This is the time when we started to certify our developers in accessibility. And now, from the very beginning of the process, from the first scratch of user flows and the user experience in UI, inclusive design is baked into our design process. And also after it's developed, then all the testing and all the quality assurance uses those different tools to assess the accessibility of a website. And a part of it is also education, not only of our developers and our dev team, but also of our partners and that we discuss, and the importance of accessibility. We also audit digital products regularly to ensure that any changes made either by ourselves or by our partners are in accordance to those regulations. And then in case they are not, then we create a remediation plan, a roadmap to create an accessible project. Whenever we also take over a new project, that's also with one of the first things would be an accessibility audit, and then creating a roadmap to showcase and to guide on how to improve that. Okay, I just wanted to quickly share some resources with you. Those are the guidelines that we've just discussed, the guidelines that make a basis for accessibility. So we have those web content accessibility guidelines and this standard ICT standard, and then also a very interesting initiative on translating the documents into a developer-friendly guides on how to build websites and digital products that are accessible. And then the next set of resources are different tools that will allow us to test. Very often they allow us to test for free and on the fly with Chrome extensions, allowing for just to review the website and see if there are any issues with accessibility. Okay, so that concludes my part, and I would like to now pass it to Agnes.
Okay, thanks, Maciek. Can you please replace the screen? Okay, amazing. Great. So welcome again, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar. For today, I prepared a demo site that is an e-commerce site built on WordPress and WooCommerce, just to keep in the topic, because e-commerce is one of the, let's say, key areas that we can support you guys when it comes to being ready for the European Accessibility Act, and making sure that all your customers can purchase and interact with the website. I just used a pre-built theme, and the idea was basically that I will break some stuff to show you guys what can be not accessible on the website. I suppose the sad reality was that even without my changes, there are still some issues with the pre-built theme. So I suppose this is also a warning for people that even if you are using something that already exists on the marketplace, it's not necessarily accessible, and it's good to check it yourself. Okay, but just to quickly go through the website, I suppose it looks pretty standard. It's just an e-commerce store with plants and some placeholder text with some changes added by me. And yeah, mostly I wanted to present you with different free tools that you can use to also do an accessibility audit in a way on your site. So one of them is the Wave Accessibility Evaluation tool. Basically, I hope we can share the link in the chat, but you just enter the site and type in the URL that you want to evaluate. And just to save some time, I have already run an evaluation for this homepage. I would say that Wave is a very nice tool because it shows you like visually where are the issues on the preview of the site. And on the left-hand side, we have a general summary when it comes to just this homepage. So this is important that all these tools that I will be presenting today are only checking these individual URLs, while when we want to do an audit of the whole website, well, we need to check the whole website, not just the homepage or just a single product page, for example. But yeah, jumping back to the example here of the homepage, we have 0 errors shown, at least 0 marked by Waved, but we have 20 contrast errors. So this is quite a common one when it comes to the contrast errors, and I can tap into the details. And when I click here on individual icons, I am redirected to the specific place where there is a contrast issue. I would say this is pretty common because sometimes, well, we want something to look nice and sleek and delicate, let's say, when we are talking, for example, for an e-commerce store for plants. But sadly, due to the small font and the very low contrast between the text, the air purifying, and the white background, this content might not be readable for users who are not even necessarily blind, right? But for somebody who is, for example, colorblind or has some other issues with their vision. I can also go to the contrast tab and see here exactly the details when it comes to this specific instance of the contrast issue. Because the tool has already selected that, okay, the foreground, the text has this hex value and the background is just white. And we can see that for WCAG norms, both for the AA and AAA, this is a fail. So neither of these benchmarks are met. When we are talking about accessibility under the European Accessibility Act, only the AA is required. The AAA is like a very high standard and is usually used for products that are dedicated to the specific market of people with disability. But yeah, at least AA should be for sure improved. How we can improve this rating is basically to increase the contrast ratio. So already in this tool, I can play around with this slider, and you can see that the text changes here. So when I go to the darkest color, already the AA is a pass. So for example, here I can quickly pick and choose different areas of the website, see where the benchmark for the contrast is not being met, adjust the colors accordingly, make sure that it passes, and then adjust my website code to make sure that it is accessible when it comes to the contrast. So yeah, if we go back to the summary, most of the issues marked by Wave are only contrast errors. But I would like to bring your attention to another part of the site, that is the benefits of indoor plants. So as has Maciek mentioned, basically what accessibility is about is that all users are able to perceive the content, especially when it's like important content for the user. If you are talking about benefits of indoor plants, then we might say that, yeah, all the benefits listed are important and all the users interacting with your website should be able to read this. But the reality, what I did here, these are all images. And additionally, these images do not have any alt text. What alt text is basically a textual description of what is presented on the image. And it's provided within an alt tag when it comes to the code of the website. The good or bad thing is that when we are talking about WordPress, by default, if we do not provide any alt text, then the alt attribute is null or empty. This is solved in such a way because WordPress interprets that if you do not provide any alt text, most likely the image you have uploaded is just a decorative one. So if it's just a pattern, just an image to make your website look nice, and it doesn't convey any crucial information for your users, you can keep the alt text empty, and it still, as you can see, passes the accessibility test. But as a human evaluator, I can see that, okay, but this isn't decorative, this is informative. So for sure, we should have included this alt text to describe what is basically here, because people, for example, using screen readers will not be able to interact or receive this information that is shown on the website. So on one hand, yeah, Wave is a great tool, but on the other hand, there still needs to be a human evaluator to make sure that all these checks are passed. But still, Wave adds this like green icon, so it informs you where you can look and evaluate and double check that everything is fine. And here I can see that it's not fine. So yeah, we covered the contrast, we covered the alt text. Another thing that I have added on the website as an accessibility issue, but to be honest, here we are like very close between accessibility and like pure UX, let's say. I just added a button to trigger a pop-up. Of course, we can imagine that usually on websites, after a few seconds, this pop-up appears. And the problem here is that if I am using my keyboard, so I'm not a mouse user, I have some kind of disability and I only use my keyboard to operate the website. Here on the right top corner, you will be able to see my keystrokes on the keyboard. You can see that I'm tabbing through the website, but I'm not able to access this pop-up. And especially when I want to close it, I can hit escape, I can hit delete, I can hit enter. I have no way of escaping this. So this is called basically a trap. Oh, so yeah, it looks like I opened some kind of other element on the homepage was under focus, and when I clicked it, I was redirected to a different page. But this is still not a behavior that I would expect as a user. And in general, yeah, here I'm back on this trap and I have no way of escaping it apart from just refreshing the site. But of course, you can imagine that if this pop-up appears like after 5 seconds I'm on the website, every single time, this would be super frustrating and there is no way for me to escape this trap. And again, this is something that is only human evaluatable when it comes to accessibility and not something that can be really evaluated by a tool, at least as far as I know. Okay, but that would be all for the homepage. Let's see some of our products. Here again, I have a simple product page. And what I have done is I've added an image with the promo code. So yet again, we have a similar situation as we had on the homepage, where I have informative content that yet again does not have any alt text. And what I can do is I can hit right mouse click and inspect. This works both in Chrome and in Edge, most likely also in other browsers. The UI here might look a bit different, but the idea is that you can click this button to select an element. And when I highlight here, you can notice on the pop-up here at the bottom that this text does not have any name. And similarly, also this one does not have any name. So again, it does not have any alt text and nothing that describes this image. And once again, if a user would only use a screen reader, they would not be able to access this information about the promo code to purchase my products. And if we check the Wave tool, also this product page, you can see here that it has in fact marked it as an error. So what happened here? I added the image twice because once I added how it usually is added by WordPress, and again, the alt text was added as null, the website interprets it as decorative, so it does not flag it as an issue. But for this image, you can see that this is the one error that we have found. I have explicitly removed the alt attribute so that it recognizes that it is missing this alt attribute and correctly finds it as an error that for sure some alt text should be added here, especially that there is some text that should be perceivable by all users. I suppose like an argument can be made as in for a lot of accessibility issues, even if you're talking about this topic in the context of accessibility and thinking about people with disabilities, I would say that even for able-bodied people, it would be better to have this promo code in text, because it would be easier for me to just mark the text, copy it, and then paste the code that I want to use, instead of remembering this and then typing it into the basket so I get this promo code added to my purchase. So yeah, even if this, let's say, looks nice, sometimes just for usability, not just for accessibility for people with disabilities, but general usability, it's better to use text instead of images. Okay, another tool I wanted to show you that would be also in the context of the product page would be a plugin. So this is the Accessibility Insights for Web. This app has both a desktop app, I believe, and there are plugins for Chrome and Edge. I am currently on Edge. So using this plugin, I can, for example, run a fast pass and evaluate the accessibility of this website. So in a way, it looks similarly or works similarly to Wave, but it is highlighting different issues than the Wave tool that we have previously checked. You might recall that previously we were talking mostly about contrast errors, and here, although there are also contrast errors mentioned, there are mostly ARIA required fields missing. I will not be going too much into the details of the ARIA issues. This is more like a developer topic. But just so you know, these are attributes, or ARIA stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications. And these are additional attributes added to different elements on the website to enhance the HTML and provide more information about the role and the state of a property. So basically, if you have a button, then you describe an area that it's a button, that it's in a disabled state, or if it's a checkbox, if it's checked or not, that kind of stuff. So these are these ARIA attributes. And again, this website doesn't really pass all these checks. Apart from this fast pass, we can also have other audits run using this tool. And again, although there are some parts that are automated checks, so we can check automatically for contrast, for ARIA, for alt text and stuff like that, there are other things that need to be evaluated by a human auditor. So just to give you an example, I think a nice feature that this tool has is tracking the focus. So again, you might recall that we discussed about keyboard operability of the website, and one of the parts of that topic is to be able to, simply put, tab through the website and interact with all the elements on it. But also the progression between the elements on the site should continue in a logical order. So here I can turn on the visual helper, and you can see how the order looks like for this website. Maybe let me just start over so we know how this happened. So yeah, just one of the checklists that I have here, I can turn on the visual helper, and you can see I am just tabbing through the website, and you can see all these subsequent steps that the tool is taking to go through the website. And yeah, seems like here the order that we are going through the website makes sense. So I would say here that this would be a pass, and the progression through the website made sense when it comes to tabbing through it along the page. And yeah, there is just one final tool I wanted to show you guys. That is, if we go to the checkout, so let's say the final point, we really need that user to convert and to pay us for the plans they wanted to purchase. And of course, as part of the checkout, we have the billing details that the user needs to add. I would say that the issue with the contact with the form here is quite a standard one. Basically, maybe to make the form look nicer, maybe to make it a bit smaller, we have decided to remove labels from all the fields and only use placeholder text to indicate what kind of details should be provided in each of these fields. The problem is that on one hand, when I click into this field, the text disappears and I have no label. So for example, I might get confused and like forget, okay, but what exactly was I supposed to type in here? Maybe name is not that difficult to remember, but maybe address, if you are just going along the details, you might forget, should I already put country here or not? So yeah, in that way, again, not necessarily somebody needs to have a severe disability. Already for regular users, would be a bad UX experience. But this is even more so for example, people who are blind and are using screen readers. So the last tool that I wanted to show you guys is something that is already part of the Edge browser. As far as I know, it's not part of Chrome. That's why I'm using Edge today. But after I right-click, I can select Read Aloud, and let's see what the reader hears here.
Checkout. Have a coupon? Click here to enter your code. Billing details. United States, US. California. Additional information. Order notes, optional. Your order.
If you can just magic confirm that you heard the lector. Okay, great. So you see what happened. Basically, due to the fact that there are no labels added to these fields, the lector has skipped these fields altogether. So if somebody is blind, they would have no idea that these fields even exist, not to mention what kind of information they should be able to fill out in this form in order to be able to place an order. So yeah, let me just check my list. So I think that would be all for the presentation. Just to summarize, we went through the Wave tool to have an evaluation of the accessibility. We were checking the accessibility using the Accessibility Insights plugin. We also used the inspect functionality that is both in Chrome and in Edge. And finally, the read out loud functionality that is part of Chrome. This is an audit, as I mentioned, that you can do yourself on individual pages. But of course, when we do our audits, we go a bit deeper. We use a bit more advanced and also paid tools to do this evaluation. And of course, as you might have noticed, there needs to be also some expert knowledge to catch some of these things that aren't really able to be found or evaluated by automatic tools. So as part of our offer, just to make us all ready for the European Accessibility Act, we are offering a free audit for anyone who accesses our websites and submits to the form. So this would be a preliminary accessibility audit. But additionally, I also have a link that is not so accessible. This is just another version of the same website. You could use it and submit your interest in the forum the same way as you would do in the main website. The thing is that we have intentionally left an accessibility issue on this website. So whoever is able to first find this accessibility issue on this website using whichever of the tools that we have presented today and submit the information via the forum or sending us an email, they will get a full free accessibility audit. And yeah, I think that would be all from my side, and handing it back to Maciek.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Agnes. So, hey, everyone, we have a full audit for you in our small accessibility contest. Use the tools that Agnes just showed you. Check out this website and enter the magical secret code. And if you're the first one, you'll get the full audit. And let me just talk you through what we have within our accessibility offer. If you could share the screen again, Jakub. Yeah. Okay. So as you all know, everyone, you can just sign up for a free audit when we'll do an accessibility audit, describe key issue, and then you'll have a chance for a consulting session free of charge with Agnes to discuss the results of that audit based on your business, on your website, on your particular case. Then for 1,200 euros, we have a full accessibility audit with a detailed description of all the issues that were identified and a detailed roadmap on how to tackle those issues. And again, a consulting session that will inform you on how to step by step tackle all the issues that we've found. And then finally, if you decide to, after the audit, to do the fixes with Xfive, then we'll be able to, then we'll discount the price of an audit, and we'll create the fixes and fix your website at a special discounted price of 95 euros per hour in a time and material model. So we encourage you strongly to start with a free audit, have a consulting session, see maybe your website is already accessible and already EAA ready. If not, then it makes sense to do a deeper dive and get ready. We still have, well, just over 2 weeks to before European Accessibility Act hits us and becomes well, in power. So this is what we have. And this is what we have prepared for you for our accessibility offer. Just as a reminder, in 2 weeks we'll have another session on with another expert on how accessibility affects non-EU based companies, and then another one in 4 weeks on how accessibility is strictly from the design perspective with a head of design at Xfive. And now it's now it's time for you guys to ask us any questions, and we are very happy to answer. We still have a couple of minutes, so feel free to ask us anything, and we'll do our best to answer. We definitely agree with those LinkedIn users on the chat that it makes that there is a huge opportunity in accessibility. As you're very right in saying, there are billions of spend on accessibility, and yes, this is a big market. And so one thing is that we want to build a reputation of our brand that is inclusive, and there's also a financial aspect and financial reward to being accessible, both in tapping into that opportunity and into just being a better UX. I see, Aga, you've asked a question. Agnes, would you like to reply to the question on the loading speed?
Well, the proper implementation of these guidelines when it comes to accessibility should not influence the page speed, but for sure it will influence the SEO performance, just simply due to the fact that, for example, if we are talking about the alt text added to images, then, for example, a user might search your products by defining how the product looks. So you can show up in results not only in the general results page, for example, on search engines, but then also in the images, for example. So that would be another route for users to find your products if you are talking about e-commerce. Additionally, if we are talking about SEO, different search engines also evaluate the SEO of your website, and they try to basically in their results show the best website. So also, while we do not have full clarity about how Google calculates all these metrics, for sure they take into account the accessibility of the website to also rank higher websites that are more accessible. This can be, for example, seen simply due to the fact that also by the tools that are created by Google. So this can be DevTools in the inspect section that I showed you, or the page speed tool that Google uses to evaluate websites. Accessibility is one of the core metrics that Google also checks on the websites.
Great, Agnes. So that answers a question of our LinkedIn users that, well, yes, alt tags definitely help in SEO, both in terms of being able to be found through an image search, but also just having a higher ranking on overall ranking by Google, as accessibility is one of the factors that algorithms take into place. And now we have another question from Milos. So how can businesses start preparing for compliance?
Run an audit. Audit. And part of the compliance, as we are talking about is right now when it comes to European Accessibility Act, is also to have a compliance document as part of your website. So one thing is having the audit, and then it's good to have an additional subpage, similarly as you have the terms and services and privacy policy pages, then you can have also the accessibility document where you define that, okay, the audit was done then and then. You are aware that maybe parts of the website are not yet accessible, but there is a plan moving forward to solve these issues, and this would like also keep you covered when it comes to any penalties you might experience due to not yet being accessible. So as part of the audit that we are doing, we can also help you prepare such a document that can be added to your website.
Oh, that's great news, Agnes. So you don't need to be accessible by 28, but you need to start your journey on being accessible.
You need to have a plan to be accessible.
And you need to have the compliance document on your website, and that allows you to be covered. You need to have a plan. So this is also an important information for all of you that, well, we need to act now, but you don't need to rebuild all your website by 28. Just start that process. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have numbers of people with disabilities in California. We've just checked them for the European market, but I would expect to be a similar percentage. So around this 20% of adult population has some form of disabilities. So it is really a very large number of people.
Yeah, and I suppose when we are talking about accessibility, I tried to also emphasize that it's just good UX, good user experience, regardless of the user's abilities. But also there is this topic about like temporary disability. So I might not necessarily be an amputee, but I can maybe have my hand broken, and then I cannot really, if I'm right-handed and my right hand is broken, I cannot really operate my mouse. So it might be easier for me to just operate the keyboard. And then accessibility is important for me for these couple of weeks that I'm temporarily disabled. When we are talking even more about accessibility, especially in this area, we can even talk about like this very temporary accessibility. I can just simply be holding something in my hand. And yet again, just for these few minutes, I cannot really interact fully to my regular capabilities with the tool. So again, this accessibility tool will be helpful for me. So we do not really need to think only about these like more severe disabilities that are lifelong. We can also think about like temporary disabilities or just even simply the aging population. This yet again can influence that the market of like disabilities is larger in a way.
Yeah, I totally feel that with my skiing accident earlier this year,
Yeah.
and not being able to move my left hand for a couple of weeks. So totally, it's also the temporary. Okay, so do we have any other questions? If not, we will need to put in the link with the not so accessible website so that everyone can after the webinar just check that and take part in our small accessibility contest. Please just review this website, assess it with the tools we've provided, and put a secret code in the message box, and that will allow us to select a winner that will get a free accessibility audit worth of 1,200 euros. And all of the other guys, we strongly encourage you to take part in the free audit and have an opportunity to discuss, just similarly as we discussed today, as Agnes discussed today, a sample website to go over your own website and get you ready for European Accessibility Act. Okay, if there's no more questions, I thank you so much for joining our webinar and our session. I loved that all the questions and all the you joining our webinar, and I would like to welcome you for the next sessions in 2 weeks and in 4 weeks. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks and hear from you on the not so accessible website.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.